You remember that time I wrote like one word on a page and launched a Kickstarter that raised $2 million? Or that time I started this YouTube channel about storytelling and got to 1 million subscribers in my first month? Yeah, me either. A hero's journey is a busted wagon going over rickety bridges and roads with potholes. If they don't throw a wheel once in a while, they stop feeling human. But why is that? Well, let's talk about it. Before we get into that, though, here's a reminder to check out dcferguson.com for all of my latest videos, overviews of my books, exclusive behind-the-scenes content for each of my series, and you can sign up for my newsletter. I should also mention that you can help me out in a big way. If you like this video, subscribe and share it with any other friends that also enjoy the art of storytelling. Now, I'm going to start off with a statement that's going to sting a little bit, but follow me down this road. Rich kids don't feel realistic. I don't mean children that made like toy unboxing videos on YouTube and had their first million before they could learn to drive. I mean the elite, trust fund having, boarding school attending, ski vacationing in Aspen, raised by their nanny because their mommy had more important things to do, that kind of rich kid. When you think about the blessed life they were born into, it's not relatable in any way to the vast 95% of the world's population. The literary equivalent of this is what's often referred to as the Mary Sue, or in the male case, it's called the Gary Stu. Basically, the Mary Sue is at its worst when a character is immediately perfect at using some power they've been given, can solve issues in the story that are insurmountable for any number of characters until Mary Sue comes along, and does not grow, fail, learn, or develop as a character. In the same way that a rich kid can throw money or their family name at almost any problem and never pay consequences for their actions, the Mary Sue is often able to solve every problem with whatever power they've been given, and because of that, they never really have to have a drop in their story where all hope is lost. Now, we all remember that part of the 3-act structure, right? That's where there's a crash to the rising action, where all hope for victory seems lost. Luke Skywalker loses Obi-Wan to Darth Vader. Morpheus is taken by agents and half the team is killed. You can point right to a specific moment in these 3-act structures and know exactly where that drop is. Now, look at Rey from the Star Wars sequels. No, wait. We're not just going to pick on one single poorly written character. Let's also look at Captain Marvel. For both characters in their introductory movie, their humble beginnings see them start from being exceptional already. From Captain Marvel's turn from exceptional pilot to exceptional member of an elite space team, while Rey is an exceptional salvager that works alone except for her basketball with a head robot. When their powers are unlocked, they can stand toe-to-toe with the most elite characters, from Captain Marvel outclassing her own superiors, to Rey walking around with Han Solo and Chewbacca like she owns the place. And from there, it doesn't matter what comes their way. A huge chunk of Captain Marvel's story isn't beating up bad guys, it's finding out how great she used to be, and why she's even greater now, and that the bad guys she was after are actually good guys that were misunderstood. Rey goes from scavenger on a desert waste to space-hopping superhero in 6.4 seconds. And our climax sees them go one-on-one with an antagonist that was poised to be their greatest rival. For Captain Marvel, it was the leader of her team who's such a tough guy that she throws him around like a rag doll until he literally begs her to stop. For Rey, she picks up a lightsaber for the first time and manages to go 6 rounds with a dark-side edgelord that's been trained since birth. Both of these check all of our boxes for a Mary Sue. They're both immediately an expert at their powers with minimal effort. They easily solve problems entire teams of other people couldn't fix before them, and they never grow, fail, learn, or change in any meaningful way. Why do I bring this up? Well, buried under this picture of our 3-act structure is another wave that you're not seeing. The character arc of your protagonist follows this same trajectory. As our action rises, our protagonist is learning, making mistakes, and growing as a character. When we reach the drop in Act 2, the hero fails. This is a necessity for our characters, as it is the most human moment in their development. Failure tells us who our character is by showing us what they're like when everything goes to hell around them. Before we get too deep into that point, let's crystallize some of what we've already discussed. Is the concept of a Mary Sue exclusive to female characters? Absolutely not. I'd say history proves it's actually more common with male characters. Mary Sues are a more recent and astonishingly common literary snafu that has exploded due in large part to the rise of indie publishing. Not everyone that can write makes stories, and unfortunately not everyone that makes stories can write. So we see a lot of this device at the moment. Where does it come from? Again, unfortunately, the answer is us, you and me, the storytellers. One of the greatest things every storyteller should do is put in a piece of themselves in everything they write. One of the greatest sins we can commit as storytellers is to create a character as an avatar of the person we wish we could be. When we do something like this, they become perfect in our eyes, the most ideal version of ourselves. They can't have faults, they can't make mistakes, they don't need to learn, and they can't be hurt. Their journey becomes a kind of therapy for us, living vicariously through their adventures, and there is a subset of readers out there, an audience that wants to latch onto this character and live vicariously through them too. The truth is, it's unhealthy and it's bad storytelling. It's not reflective of the way that life works. If we go back to our ancient bros around the campfire, storytelling of idealized heroes, men and women of myth, they were there to teach us the pitfalls and perils of making mistakes. They were a measuring stick to aspire toward. They were there with their great big stories to tell us how to handle smaller versions of the same situations in our own lives. What is Oedipus but a warning against self-fulfilling prophecy? What is Gilgamesh if not about brotherhood? What is the story of Icarus but a warning against hubris? Our heroes fail because we fail. They get back up and face the third act because that's what we should do. We model ourselves after those that we admire. If they're perfect in every way, then they're not like us at all. We can't do anything but live vicariously through them. Instead of making you a better character in your own life, strong like Hercules or dangerously curious like Pandora, we stagnate and imagine a different, unattainable world. That world has perfect beings, not humans. It's the human part of storytelling that gives us something to think about, or to warn us against, or to ask us difficult ethical questions. Now that we understand the why of why our heroes must fail, let's talk about some examples of this in action so that we understand what it's supposed to look like. I already mentioned the classic hero's journey of Star Wars and The Matrix, and those are easy. You can spot the exact transitions from Act 1 to Act 2, the drop and the climax, to the point where you could show me a screenshot or a timestamp from the film and I could tell you where it's at on this 3-act structure. But how about some more uncommon examples where the drop isn't so obvious? We can start with the 1984 film The Terminator. Yes, the film that started the franchise and put the idea of Skynet into our collective heads but didn't seem to stop us from trying to make it a reality. In this film, Kyle Reese is sent back in time to protect Sarah Connor, the woman that will give birth to a great general, and the last hope humanity has to stop the killer robots called Terminators, which are controlled by an AI that decided Earth was better without humans on it. Some people would say that the death of Kyle Reese is the drop in the story, but that actually happens in the middle of the climax. No. For us to find the second act drop, we have to go all the way back to the police station scene. When the police tell Sarah that Kyle is crazy and made all of this up, Sarah wants to believe them. Yeah, a dude is trying to kill her and Kyle did save her, but his story is nuts. If the cops are right and he's crazy, then she can go back to the life that she had. When the Terminator shows up and levels the entire police precinct trying to get her, Sarah has to go on the run with Kyle again, this time willingly. She has to accept that the world she had is gone, and only the nightmare remains. She calls her mother only to realize the Terminator got her too. She has no one but this crazy man from the future. That's her lowest point. From here, she gets to know Kyle and wants to be a part of his world. When they hook up, this is the first rising action toward the third act. She's now putting her trust and hope in Kyle as a partner, and only through that will they survive. That's pretty dang deep for a killer robot action movie, but hey, that's the 80s for you. It's amazing how well these movies hold up. And our next example is just another one of those, an action film from the 80s that very cleverly hides its second act drop, and the moment our hero realizes they've made mistakes and they may not make it out. We're talking about the 1988 film Die Hard. Despite filling us with Christmas spirit, you may be surprised to find this is an action movie. What we want to study is the extremely subtle moment after hero John McClane escapes a firefight against our antagonist Hans Gruber and his henchmen. He uses his radio to reach out to Officer Powell outside the building that he's trapped in. There, he takes a moment to ask him to deliver a message to his wife if he doesn't make it. Now, for context, we have to remember that so far, John McClane has been an unstoppable force, but every single time he's made mistakes. As a matter of fact, John almost dies every single time he sticks his neck out. This time, though, he's badly wounded, and he's seen the full force of his antagonist. This man is determined, he's willing to kill, and he has the numbers on his side. John realizes his luck may just be running out. This is exceptionally human, as this man comes to grips with the fact that he may be at the limit of what he's capable of doing in the face of such an enemy. And herein lies the perfect example of the lesson I've been trying to impart this whole time. John tells Powell that message for his wife because even as John realizes this might be too much for him, he's going back into the lion's den anyway. He is showing us who he is, that his wounds and the fear of their numbers, even for his very life, is not enough to stop him from trying. This is why your heroes need to fail. Not because it makes for good back and forth movements in the story and all that technical stuff, but because it reveals who your character really is when their back is against the wall. The proof is in the pudding. People still lovingly refer to Die Hard as something that people watch every Christmas. It stands the test of time. John makes mistakes and keeps going because his quest is righteous. The other side of that coin is Ray. I don't know about you, but I've never picked up a sword and thought to myself that I could take on an Olympic-level fencer, or that I could grab a guitar and immediately start playing my favorite songs by ear. That I could decide to become a pro wrestler and immediately John Cena swings by to pick me up for an Australian tour. This is what you're doing when you create the Mary Sue, a sense of unearned skill, prestige, and plot armor that reads more like the author's own personal fan fiction about themselves than anything that you'd see in the real world. That's why we can't relate. Fear not, though, not all hope is lost. My personal preference as an author is the opposite. I like to beat my characters down over and over and over, squeezing them for characterization until they beg me to stop. I mean, maybe that also says something about me as an author, but if it makes you, the audience, appreciate the story and characters more, then I did my job. Remember, the drop is your friend, not your enemy that you must shield your characters from. This is when they're going to tell you who they are, if you'll listen, and sometimes they may even surprise you. I feel like the temperature on writing has changed in recent years. Authors seem to love their characters so much that they can't let anything be wrong with them or hurt them. It's the same mindset behind helicopter parenting, though. Those people make a poorly adjusted person that absolves themselves of all guilt and does whatever they want. Like our audience, society now has to deal with their mistake. The world is a worse place when your characters don't rise above their worst moments. Don't forget to check out my new website. The link is in the description below. You'll also find the link to my newsletter in the comments where you can get a free book, read about all of my latest projects, and find other indie authors for your next great read. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear about new videos, and as always, have fun and get crafting.